Branded residences are the new trending thing in Dubai real estate. Well, what better than discussing branded residences with someone from the hospitality industry to understand what goes behind a branded residences and how branded residences are created, etc., etc. So today to discuss this, I have someone joining me on the show, Mr. Paul Bridger, the COO of ROVE Hotels. ROVE has recently announced two branded residences, one in downtown and one in Business Bay. And I thought, why not try and have him on the show to discuss what's happening with these branded residences and to discuss about the hospitality industry as well. But before I start the show, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so you can stay updated. Your likes and comments are really appreciated. If you're listening to this on Spotify, please do follow us. And Apple Podcast listeners, please do give us a 5-star rating and review. This really helps us getting discovered. Now let's cue the music. Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for taking time out from your very busy schedule and joining us on the show. It's a pleasure to have you. Paul, why don't you start with just a quick introduction about yourself so the audience knows what you do?
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on the show. My name's Paul Bridger. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for ROVE Hotels,
Lovely.
a homegrown brand here, born in Dubai, with big plans.
That's great. That's great. So, Paul, first thing first, what exactly is the ROVE brand? Because unlike a typical hotel which you go to in Dubai, especially, right? When you enter ROVE, it's a very cool space, right? So, tell us more about the brand ROVE.
So, the brand was created to kind of appeal to a new niche in the market, or a niche in the market where, when we were created kind of 7-8 years ago, Dubai was very heavy on luxury hotels,
Right.
which were, frankly, absolutely amazing. They're the best in the world.
Yes.
But there is a segment of traveller and resident that kind of wants somewhere that's a bit more relaxed, a bit more casual, where they can hold their meetings, but not feel like they're in a kind of stuffy environment, at the right price point, with a cool design.
Yes.
And most importantly, a great team, that are really kind of down to earth and engaged and encouraged to kind of bring their personality into the business.
So, how easy or how difficult was it for a homegrown brand to compete with so many international brands which are there today in Dubai? Like, you have the best of hotels over here. So when, and plus ROVE, I believe, is a very young brand. It's like started in 2016, 17, right? So how easy or difficult was it to compete with these kind of brands?
I think we didn't really see it as competing. I think we saw it as really trying to do the right thing by our guests.
Yeah.
And by our guests include the locals and the community, and, trying to consistently deliver day in, day out, and offer something a little bit different sometimes as well.
Right. So when this brand is created, right, was this done with some sort of a research that you want to appeal to a certain audience or, a certain segment, or how was it? Because, when you enter this property or any ROVE property, right, it's a very different feeling altogether. I don't know how to describe that, but it's like, a very a cool, a young, kind of feel. So was it done on purpose?
Yeah, so the brand DNA is really to appeal to, and it's not really a young, everyone talks about generation,
Yes, the Gen Z.
millennials,
Yeah.
or whatever. It's really, which I don't think either of us are now, I'm not sure.
Exactly. No.
It's really about that mindset, young at heart mindset.
Right.
And what we try to do is, we don't have the frills of luxury hotels. So we don't have valet parking. We don't have someone running around, after you've taken your bags to your room, etc. But that's also can be an advantage, right? Because you can park where you want, you can get to you can leave straight away. You don't have to wait. You leave your meeting, you don't have to wait 15 minutes for the guy to come or whatever. And I think, for someone, like me I'm happy to carry my own bag to my room, right? Because if I'm traveling, I've probably been on an 8-hour flight. I've managed to navigate the airport, a taxi, etc., etc. Going to the room is the least of my worries, and I don't want to wait 15 minutes for someone to bring it, because I want to get out, right? If I'm in a new destination, so that's the kind of mindset that we look for. In terms of the kind of environment or the vibe, I think this is mainly created by the team.
Right.
We try to give them a nice environment. We really look after our assets. We make sure that we keep on top of our property. We have a Rove Sen, a Rove playlists. We recruit people that kind of fit our profile,
Right.
and then we try and put that together and create a package.
Right. So, tell us now. Now you've just collaborated with Earth, and there are two Rove branded residences coming up, which is the first time we're seeing a Rove branded residences. One in downtown, one in Business Bay. Now, what role does Rove play in a project like that when it's a co-branded project?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of things that led us to this. So, firstly, obviously, real estate in Dubai. You're
Yes.
much more of an expert than I am, but real estate in Dubai, is really been on an upward trend.
Right.
Investors and end users are looking for something different, and branded residences are also becoming more and more
Yes.
popular from the mainstream
Yes.
brands that you mentioned. And Rove as a brand, there were a couple of things that we kind of thought that linked very well. So firstly, we're quite design led.
Yes.
Secondly, we appeal to a kind of young at heart mindset.
Right.
And also in our hotels, and particularly, in the summer months and over COVID, and some of our locations, we have a lot of people doing monthly stays that are kind of essentially, this is their home for
Right.
for an extended period. So
Got
actually
it.
the transition into branded residence was quite a natural transition. Of course, we're owned by big developers, so we have knowledge and expertise in this space.
True.
So that's kind of our role, is to make sure that DNA carries into a residential environment for a different purpose.
That's great. Now, you just mentioned something which is that you have a lot of guests staying here, not just for a few days or weeks, but even months, right? So, do you think people who are, for instance, buying these Rove branded residences, would they be getting a high demand on people wanting to rent these units on a short-term basis, like for a few months, 3 months, 6 months? Are you anticipating that kind of demand?
We do, yeah. So we do see that there will be an element of kind of extended stays
Yeah.
in our branded residences
Right.
moving forward. But we also think it's a great place to live. And what we're kind of essentially doing is, if you look at the locations of our residences and also our upcoming residences, which I can't divulge them all, but super central locations,
Yes.
affordable price point, which doesn't exist too much. Generally, if you go right in the middle of town,
Yeah.
in any location,
Yes.
there's a big
True.
price to pay.
Absolutely.
And what we do is we limit the living spaces.
Yes.
They're not small, but we know
Yeah.
limited living spaces. Really, engage in public areas, a bit like our hotels, but in a central location.
Right.
And you find there's a lot of young professionals, particularly, or professionals that, or small families that want to, are happy to have slightly smaller space, but to
But
be
be in the
right in
center.
the middle of
Yes.
town.
Especially with the traffic growing, everybody now is thinking that you better be in the central location rather than traveling, because a travel time which a few years back was 20 minutes today is 40 minutes. Right?
Yeah, and it's lost time. And we talk about luxury.
Yeah.
And I think there's a mindset that luxury is also time.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
And time and convenience and all this kind of stuff. So, arguably, you could say that it's a luxury being
Right.
in the center of town.
Tell me something. When a brand like yours collaborates with the developer to build a branded residence, how much of a say does Rove have in the design or the amenities or features of the project?
So I don't know about other brands, but
Yeah.
but for us, we are actively involved. We shortlist the interior designers. We select the materials. We treat it the same as a hotel.
Nice.
So we're really actively involved. I mean, I personally sit on the majority of the design meetings, just to
Right.
give you how much
Got it.
input we have. So it's not like we take a building and put our name on it.
Right.
That wouldn't support our brand, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't help the investors.
True. Now, Paul, one question I want to ask you is, of lately, since the past few years, Airbnb holiday rentals have really picked up in Dubai. As a hospitality brand, as a hotel, do you think Airbnb or holiday rentals are like a direct competition, or do you feel that the clients looking at those kind of stays and someone preferring to live in a Rove are different audiences?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of crossover. I think bookers and guests are now really savvy about what they're getting, right?
Right.
And if I go to a hotel, I know, I've got the comfort of security, reception, daily housekeeping, etc., etc. So I kind of know that model there.
Right.
And I think now everybody also knows what they're getting with an Airbnb style
Yeah.
product. Depending on my purpose of travel,
Yes.
I may choose a hotel or an Airbnb
Right.
product. I think the difference now is that because of technology and you also can, the Airbnb operators and the hotels are pushed to really deliver.
Right.
You can't, whether you've got an apartment, you're leasing out an Airbnb, you've got to make sure it's clean, comfortable,
Yes.
et cetera,
That's
et
true.
cetera.
Yeah.
So, I think these innovations are great for the market.
Right.
And,
Now, talking about Dubai and a place, Dubai is become like a tourist hub today. Where do you see are you seeing tourism increasing? How have been the past few years, and how are you anticipating the next few years?
So it's interesting. So since COVID, and we've been on in ROVE, but also tourism,
Yes.
we've been on a constant upward trend.
Right.
Last year was our record year ever.
Wow.
This year to date, we're double digits growth on last year
Okay.
in terms of revenue on a like-for-like basis. So yeah, I mean, UAE is doing fantastic. Dubai is doing fantastic. I think obviously there was some kind of pent-up demand. I think the positioning of the UAE and Dubai on the world stage has just continued to grow, and we're proud to be a small part of that.
That's great. Paul, I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, but from what I have heard and done a little bit of my research, talking to a few friends in the hospitality industry also, apparently ROVE Hotels have one of the highest occupancy levels. How true is that?
Our occupancy is ahead of the market. We have broad market data, so we don't really know by hotel or whatever, but in terms of against the market,
Yes.
we have higher occupancy than the market as a whole. We generally outperform by over 20% on RevPAR. We measure revenue
Wow.
per available room
Yeah.
versus our kind of comp set, which is
Yes.
sometimes difficult, but in the kind of 3-4 star hotel market, we're about 20 odd plus percent better, let's say.
And what do you think is the main reason for that?
I think we're pretty consistent in what we try to do. I think yes, we have great design, et cetera, et cetera. But I think if you go to ROVE Downtown or ROVE Dubai Marina or ROVE Emaar, you'll get, I hope, the same feeling, same vibe,
Yes.
same team, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you kind of know what you're getting. And I think obviously we've got great locations,
Yes.
which help as well.
So, how does ROVE manage? Because if you see, right, today, for instance, okay, we're here in your property in downtown, right? It's a top location, but at the same time, if you compare staying in even any hotel in downtown or even an Airbnb, sometimes the prices what ROVE gives is like really competitive. How do you manage that?
So, I mean, back a house. So we
Yeah.
operate two kind of models. So back a house, we're super lean, super efficient. We centralize everything. So,
Okay.
Traditionally a hotel would have a GM, a finance director, et cetera, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. We allow our hotel teams to focus fully on the guest.
Okay.
And we centralize all the back office.
Okay.
So finance sits centrally, HR sits centrally. That allows us to keep our costs down.
Right.
And we run a kind of, a very lean, purchasing model, et cetera, et cetera. So that allows us to keep our costs down. And we just have a fantastic team which deliver day in, day out. We don't have particularly high turnover.
Right.
So all of these things together.
So basically, what you're kind of, controlling your cost, that's somewhere passed on to the
Yeah, we pass
End
that
user.
on to the guests
Yes, sir.
wherever we can.
right. What are the future plans for ROVE?
Okay, great question. So, I mean, we've been pretty big on branded residences this last 12 months.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we've got some new projects coming.
Okay.
Our project on Meraas Drive is being very popular.
Yes.
It's a big project, but the sales are going very well.
Yeah.
We will look to do probably another couple more announced this year, at least one, or if not two, announced this year in terms of branded residences in the UAE. And then on the hotel side, we're actively working on projects with a focus on the GCC, but we do have interest, as I mentioned before,
Yes.
overseas.
Right.
For us, it's really important that we're in the right location. We follow the same brand pattern. So, we have to be quite selective about who we
Right.
work with and where we go.
Right.
But I hope we can. I expect we'll be announcing another hotel in July that will
Nice.
open in July.
Wow.
That we're working on now. We'll open on Marjan Island in Q4 this year.
Okay.
That's a very popular destination
Yes.
for real estate
Yes.
as well. And yeah, watch this space for some more.
That's
some more
great.
things.
That's great. No, tell me something. When now this is something which a lot of people always wonder, right? Now, obviously, when you talk about a hospitality brand, and say, for example, Rove. Now, there are a lot of times when the properties are either owned by the brand or sometimes the property is owned by someone else, and Rove as a brand is managing that. From a real estate point of view, right? If someone was an investor and has invested into a property which is built for Rove, and if a brand like Rove is managing, what kind of role does an investor play in that as a hotel owner, and what role does the brand play?
Yeah, so there's different models.
Yeah.
Our first kind of 3,000 keys we developed, own and operate.
Right.
Moving forward, the majority of our rooms will be managed.
Right.
And typically what happens is the owner will build a hotel to the standards of the brand. The brand will take a small percentage off the top line, and then a percentage of GOP, gross operating profit, would be the kind of fee streams. Would be the fee streams there. But there's other models, of course. You can take a lease.
Yes.
You can franchise your brand and allow someone else to manage it to
Got it.
your guidelines.
That's good.
But the majority, I think, moving forward for us will be managed hotels.
Managed hotels. Right. That's great. That's great. Now, one question to you is, right now, when you enter a Rove property, you don't find the typical things which you find in a normal hotel. And even your meeting spaces, or for instance, having a podcast studio in a hotel, this is something which is, you don't really find it in most hotels. Was this done because you see there's a huge demand from people wanting these kind of facilities and, these kind of amenities? And what's your client retention like? Like, once a guest comes and stays in a Rove, do you have any information on what's the percentage of guests who are repeat guests that they love and they want to come back again and again?
So we don't get too hung up on what's a traditional hotel model. We
Yeah.
try to say, what can we do a bit differently? The podcast studio was born out of COVID.
Right.
Podcasts exploded.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we've got less and less meetings happening.
Yeah.
People are trying to limit the amount of people they have in rooms at that
Yeah.
time. So why don't we just give it a try? And I think one of the things we do quite well is because we have quite a low hierarchy.
Yeah.
We can make decisions quickly.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's an example of a podcast studio. We have a Nikon studio in our marina property. So we try to do things a bit differently, and we will going forward. I mean, again, the branded residences, if I touch on that, we have probably the biggest, one of the biggest mixes of public spaces and facilities
Yes.
compared to living spaces.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of, again, something differently, because normally you'd think, okay, a mid-scale brand, you maybe have a tiny pool and you have limited stuff. And what we try to do is do things a bit differently that work for the investor or ideally the end user.
End user,
because
yes.
Then everybody
Yeah.
wins.
What's one feedback you've got from guests which gets one thing which they love about a Rove property? Like one feedback which you get from majority of the guests.
I think what I love to read is where people have a great time in one hotel and then they're like, oh, when's the other one? And it was equally as good.
Yeah.
So I think what I love to see is where we have that consistent, strong feedback.
Yeah.
And, obviously the team make it. Right?
Right.
I mean, everything else is just
Right.
concrete and glass and
True.
whatever. It's the team
Yes.
that bring hospitality to life. And when we can carry that forward into multiple properties,
Yes.
that's when that.
So how do you exactly plan to infuse this kind of experience with a branded residence. So, what is the kind of experience you would? I mean, okay, one is the property itself, right? But how do you ensure that the experience to the guest or eventually a tenant living in a Rove branded residence gets that sort of experience?
So we'll be managing the property
Okay.
as well. So although it's a lighter touch than a hotel,
Yes.
we'll still have the Rove team members front of house dealing with helping you with your everyday needs,
Right.
and all the other things that make the hotel work will
Yeah.
carry into a residences.
Right.
So it will be like hotel living. You
Right.
know.
Do you have any sort of data on what kind of age bracket is your prime clientele or no?
For hotels or
For
for
hotels?
residences? For hotels, it's a real mixture. Again, when we started, we thought, okay, we're going to have millennials, and
Yeah.
and it's really interesting when you go around because you see, you have pensioners and
Yeah.
young families and co-workers and whatnot. So no, it is a real mixture.
Right.
What we try to make sure is, and what naturally happens is we have people with the mindset of Rove,
Yes.
and if people are looking for being pampered,
Yeah.
then we've got some great sister properties.
Yes.
Please,
Yeah.
use them. So we're quite open about what we do, and we're proud of what we do.
No, that I think is one of the great things, because when you go to any other property and when you enter a Rove, the experience is totally different, and it's as you said, it's more casual, it's more fun, and young at heart. So
We want people to come down in their, I don't know, shorts and
Yeah.
the flip flops, put their feet up and feel comfortable.
comfortable, right?
Whereas some places you might get looked at funny.
No, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Now, one thing I want to ask you, Paul, is a lot of people, Dubai obviously is a growing city. It's going, we're seeing this city grow exponentially, I would say. What advice do you have for people who want to get into the hospitality industry?
So interestingly, I was on a panel at the hotel show recently. I
Yeah.
had similar questions. So I think hospitality is one of those industries that you get such great exposure to people.
Right.
And one of the things, and I always say this to new joiners, particularly in Dubai, I get to work with, I don't know, maybe 80 nationalities.
Yes.
I wouldn't get that, firstly in Dubai, but also as an industry,
Yeah.
right? You end up, your EQ grows exponentially.
Yeah.
Career-wise, hospitality is one of those places where you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to study for 5 years. You can work hard, you can follow the right leaders and progress very quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of our team work their way up. We've got GMs that started as supervisors and waiters and whatnot.
Wow.
So it's just one of those industries that's buzzing and exciting.
That's great. That's great. No, what you said is really nice, because Dubai is literally like a mix of so many cultures and so many people from around the world. Now, how has your experience been living in Dubai? How long have you been here, and what's your experience?
So I've been here 14 or 15 years with a 3-year gap in the middle.
Okay.
I went away for 3 years. I was in Southeast Asia. I did 5-6 years, and then 3 years in Southeast Asia. And then I missed Dubai, and I came back. And of course, I came back to come to Rove, and it was
Yeah.
such an exciting opportunity, particularly a homegrown brand.
Yeah.
You don't see many homegrowns, particularly in our kind of segment, and
Yes.
sometimes in the luxury.
Yeah.
Most of the brands come out of Europe or the
Yes.
States, and I think to be part of something like this was really
Yeah.
exciting. I miss Dubai. It's so well connected, and so multicultural, as you
Yes,
say.
it is. It is. It is. No. That's a great thing. I think, Paul, this was a great conversation. I mean, I myself, I got to learn a lot of things from you, and I hope to see more Rove hotels and more Rove branded residents coming very soon. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. So, guys, that was Mr. Paul Bridger, the COO of ROVE Hotels. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you're looking for anything to do with Dubai real estate, investments in Dubai real estate, do get in touch with me on any of my social media handles at Tahir Majidhia. The contact details are also in the description below. And I'll be back with another episode of the Dubai Real Estate Podcast very soon.